Boy, do we have a big day today if you're a New England sports fan. Obviously, we've got the big game later tonight, but in my opinion, we've got the big game before the big game. The Celtics and the Knicks are battling for the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Grande, thanks for jumping on with us to preview this massive matchup between the two Atlantic Division rivals. All right, these two teams, as I said, battling for the number 2 seed. Sean, did you expect this before the season started?
Of course,
on
Marc.
February 8th.
Of course, everybody expected it. Everybody knew that on this day that the Patriots were going to be in the Super Bowl and that the Celtics would be ahead of the Knicks. Knicks going into this game. It's insane. And I think that's why at some point we have to just stop the idea of, well, we didn't know this or this person predicted that, and just sit back and enjoy the chaos that has been created here and how many magical nights we have already had, and the fact that we have a game today, a national TV, Sunday afternoon game at the Garden, like great Celtics tradition. We weren't supposed to have any of these games, so dig in.
Did you say magical night? Because it felt like Friday night was pretty magical. What stood out?
As was Wednesday in Houston.
Yeah, insane.
The biggest dilemma we have, I think, trying to document this season is saying which has been the most ridiculous win of the gap year Celtics, which is the one that we're going to remember the most, because go back to early in the year when they beat Detroit and they beat Cleveland, games we're going to be talking about going into that Knicks game in early December. There have been 10 or 15 games we had no right to expect, and yet here we got to pick between them.
So both of these, well, let's rewind to before the season, because a lot of people expected the Knicks to maybe be the best team in the East. Now they enter this game as a number 3 team in the East. But the Celtics, not a lot of people expected them to be where they are today. What do you think has been the most important part of this team that has led them to this success?
That there isn't one specific piece that's been the most important
Great
thing.
answer.
It's the fact that every single thing before the season you said, well, if this happens, and if this happens, and well, if Neemias Queta can be a top center in the league, and if Jalen Brown takes that next step, and if Derek can guard the next best player on the other team every night, and if Luka Garza and Baylor Shireman and Josh Minot can shoot 40% from 3 off the bench, all these things that seemed ridiculous, and yet each and every one of them has happened.
And the Knicks have played well. Obviously, they haven't been healthy the entire season. They went through a rough patch here about a month ago, but they've been really hot of late. Let's talk about where these two teams are today. The Celtics have won 8 of 9. They just lost for the first time in their last 9 games. The Celtics, meanwhile, 5 straight wins, holding all of those opponents to 100 points or fewer. But Friday night, let's talk about that game in particular, what happened for the Celtics. They're down by 22 to the Miami Heat, and they looked dead in the water. I mean, they did not look like they had it, and then all of a sudden, boom, here they come with a tidal wave. What stood out to you from that game that got the Celtics back in it and then to win it?
That they consistently defended throughout the entire game. Miami hit some shots in the first quarter. Defense has turned this thing around. The Celtics are the number 2. We're talking about them offensively. Elite offense, one of the great all-time. The Celtics in the last 15 games, not a small sample size anymore, this is over a month, Celtics are the number 2 defensive team in the league because they have stayed true to their defensive principles. And guys that you don't think of as being very good defensive players, Sam Hauser is at the top of that list to me.
I think of him being as a great defensive
I know you do,
player.
but you're on Celtics live streams every night talking about it. League-wide, they're not talking about Sam Hauser as being a plus defender, and yet he has been. When Anthony Simons was here, he became a plus defender. So over and over again, that's where the Celtics have overachieved. And what we're finding out, the lesson we've probably known all along, in this league, if you give a great effort every night, you give an honest effort every night, you stay true to the way you want to play, you're going to win more games than people thought you were going to win, because you're going to catch other teams on nights that they're not bringing it.
And talk about nights that they're not bringing it. That's what happened for the New York Knicks Friday night. The Celtics come back from 22 down, and the New York Knicks fall by 38 points on the road to the number 1 team in the East. Obviously, they weren't healthy for that game. Towns and Anunoby both did not play. But looking back on it, we're seeing some highlights from that game here, or some lowlights for the Knicks probably. What stood out to you from that one that left them in the dust?
I'd say what an interesting weekend, right? What a showcase weekend for the Knicks to get Detroit and Boston on the road, and what a terrible time to have Towns and Anunoby, who even right now we don't know if they're playing in this game today, which makes a huge difference. But you look at this game and you say, wow, the Knicks, they fell short against the top team in the East. Detroit came off a bad game the night before against Washington, so they were geared up and hungry. You don't want to catch a team after they're coming off a bad night. That can usually lead to bad things.
Wait, isn't that what's happening today?
That's kind of my point without jumping ahead. And again, we don't know who's playing for the Knicks yet, but you don't always, you're walking into a bad situation sometimes when you do, but everybody had erased the fact that the Knicks have been as hot as anybody in the league, and they had won 8 in a row. That post-NBA Cup funk is over with, and I think there's a lot of people that still feel they're the favorites in the Eastern Conference, and that Detroit game obviously is going to change a lot of minds, but when you realize who was playing and who wasn't, there's still a lot of confidence in New York, and there should be.
And they found their defense as well. The Celtics playing great defense. The Knicks have been playing well as well outside of that game Friday night. All right, we've gotten halfway through the show. Haven't even mentioned the new big man in the center, the trade deadline acquisition for the Celtics with Nikola Vucevic. 2-time All-Star, comes in here, comes off the bench willingly, by the way. He does not have any qualms with coming off the bench for this team. He made that very clear in his press conference. A double-double. One of 5 Celtics players in the last 25 years to log a double-double in their first game with the team. What do you got?
Well, get used to that, because only LeBron James has more double-doubles among active players in the league. So Vuce has been doing this for a long time in this league. You know, we had Derek White on after the game, and when I asked him about Vuce fitting in, making plays like that, he said, listen, basketball is an international language, and he joked about how, I don't know how many languages Vuce actually speaks, but basketball is certainly one of them, and he just knows how to play. And I think the biggest obstacle for the Celtics on Friday night was teams, how they're going to defend the Celtics now with Vucevic, and adjusting to that. I have zero concerns about Vuce being able to fit in to what they want to do. And hey, it's big, spacing the floor, which is how the Celtics have been so dominant the last 2 years.
But he didn't even hit a 3 during that game. So my question to you is, what is going to be his most significant impact on this team? Like, is it 3-point shooting? Is it rebounding? Like, what is it that you think is going to impact this team the most?
There's more than one way to space the floor. You can space the floor by being able to
Very
shoot.
true.
You can also space the floor by being able to move the ball in the post. And once the Celtics figure out how to get on the ball faster than they did in the first game Friday, he's really going to be moving guys around. So Vuce spaces the floor in both of those ways. And as amazing and as unexpected as the years that Keita and Garza have had, that's something they weren't going to be able to do.
Well, this guy has a photographic memory, so I got to ask you this question. When's the last time the Celtics had a post-up guy like Nikola Vucevic? Kristaps Porzingis used to post up, but he was more of kind of like a deep mid-range post-up, shooting over the top of you. That's not what Vuce does. When's the last time the Celtics had a guy like him?
You don't think Walter McCarty was one with that body frame?
I would say no.
And the Mark Blunt era and things like that. Well, a lot of teams have gone away from it.
Is that the last time?
Probably.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. All right. Last time these two teams met, early December, pretty incredible win for the Boston Celtics. Came down to the final minutes. It was a crunch time win. Jordan Walsh went nuts during the final 6 minutes. What do you remember most about that game that the Celtics won? I think it was 103-97
I'll tell you what I flash back to is I talk about this a lot, that the Celtics had now gone over 11 years without losing 5 in a row. And at the start of the year, in keeping with our theme, I remember looking at the schedule thinking, boy, home Orlando, home Detroit, at Minnesota, at Cleveland, home New York. That could be the stretch.
Yep.
And the Celtics ended up winning 4 of those 5 games,
crazy.
and the only one they lost was the narrow loss at Minnesota when they came back to tie it. But you're coming off that Cleveland game that they won without Derek White. And this is just when all this magical run was beginning for this year's team. Josh Minott was really good in that game back in December. What struck me, the difference between these 2 games, there were a lot of them. Remember how atrocious the Celtics were on the glass the first week of the season, including Game 2 at Madison Square Garden. They won the rebounding battle in that game, and they kept New York off the free throw line, and that was the 2 significant changes from Game 1 to Game 2.
And now the Celtics have become one of the better rebounding teams in the NBA, which is another storyline that's been developing.
7th in the league, which is insane. And by the way, they went in and had their best rebounding night of the year at Houston, with the Rockets being the number 1 rebounding team in the league. So add that to the gap year Celtics list of ridiculous
Just continues to surprise us each and every night. I said 103-97. It was 123-117. So I was off by about 20 points on both sides. All right, tonight's game, we've got Jalen Brunson out there. Obviously, he is the key cog in the New York Knicks offense. The Celtics actually did a really good job on him during that last game. I think he only scored 15 points during that contest. What do you remember about how they defended him to kind of frustrate him a little bit, and how can they replicate that tonight?
The 2 things were with Brunson.
Today. It's the afternoon.
It is an afternoon game, bright and early. The 2 things you have to remember with Brunson is that he is going to score. He's a dumb, but you got to make him work to do it in 2 different ways. One, you want to make him work because you need to attack him on the defensive end. This is what people feel might be the fatal flaw of the Knicks, is as dominant as Brunson and Towns are. You have 2 guys you can kind of go at offensively. So you got to try to make Brunson work at the defensive end because he's going to score. But when he scores, you need him to score like that because he's going to, not at the free throw line. Again, the difference between game 1 and game 2 with the Knicks this year, they kept Brunson off the free throw line. He's going to score, but make him work like that to do it.
Great point. Great point, keeping off the free throw line. All right, we're going to wrap up with some predictions. It can be for today's game. It can be for here going into the All-Star break. I'm going to leave it up to you first. What do you got for a prediction here moving forward?
I think that the prediction is there are going to be a lot more games like this. National TV, games that impact the standings the rest of the way that we had no right to expect. I think as far as this game specifically today, I don't like it when a team is coming off a bad performance. That could be a bad omen, but still, as we're talking right now, we haven't had an official decision on Anunoby or Towns, and that makes a monstrous difference. The Knicks are not the Knicks without those two guys.
But you're going to hear about those injury updates coming up at 12 o'clock on NBC Sports Boston for Celtics Pregame Live. But before we get there, my prediction is that the Celtics win this game, and they win it comfortably today. I think they're going to play a great basketball game. This is going to be an unbelievable day for all of New England sports fans. The Celtics take it home in the afternoon to double their lead over the Knicks in the Eastern Conference standings, up to 2 games. And then later tonight, you get the opportunity to watch the New England Patriots try to take it home in the biggest game in the world.
I predict Max and I will have a great broadcast today.
I don't deny that. Even at 12:30?
It's a little shaky for me early in the day, but once the adrenaline starts going, it's
What
always 7:30.
time do you usually wake up?
On a regular day, I'm probably up until 3 or 4, as people know on social media, I'm up till 3 or 4 in the morning working, so I'm not up till 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. So this is, to me,
breakfast time?
It's completely, what's that meal again? I'm not familiar with it.
Exactly. Well, I just caught him having some. So you're awake. You're going to do a great job today. Can't wait. Everyone take a listen to him. But now tune it over to NBC Sports Boston for Celtics Pregame Live starting at noon. Enjoy the game and enjoy the big one later tonight.